Okay, so in my opinion, meditating is the single best thing that you can do every day. And when I really got established in a daily meditation practice, that's when I started to find that, it gave me all sorts of surprises. Firstly, I found that meditation was like a cornerstone habit. It was like the habit on which other habits could be built. So, because I think if you're working with your mind, then you can work with your life more generally. So it makes it much easier to then have a regular exercise and a better diet and stop smoking, perhaps, those kind of things. That's not to mention all the other benefits that can come from meditation. I've experienced better relationships with people, thinking more clearly, and a general sense of life being sort of exciting and meaningful. So I'm probably preaching to the choir. But if you're watching this video, you probably know that. You probably know that to meditate every day would be a really valuable thing. And yet, you also may be experiencing, as I've certainly experienced as well, that to sort of set up and maintain that practice can be a real challenge. I want to give a few tips, say a few things about how you can try and turn that desire into something that can really last, that you can follow through on. So my teacher, Sangharakshita, who founded the movement that the London Buddhist Centre is a part of, said that there's a fundamental mistake that you can make, which is to think that you should only do something when you really want to do it. And that's certainly a mistake when it comes to meditation. It's very natural that we don't always want to meditate. We might be feeling like we want to right now, watching this video, but in practice, tomorrow morning perhaps, you might really not want to. And that's very normal. And he's saying, in a way, it doesn't really matter which you do first, doing it or wanting to do it, because you ultimately need both. You ultimately need to just get on with doing it every day, and you'll need to develop a way to really want to be doing that in order for that to sustain. So I'll talk about those a bit separately. So first of all, just doing it. So I'd really suggest that's the place to start. If you think about exercising, say, you might not always want to go for a run, but when you're out on the run, you might start feeling like you want to do it. So the wanting to do it might well just sort of catch up after you've started. And really, you just need to make a decision. You just need to make a decision that that's what you're going to do, that you're going to find a way to meditate every day. Once you've made that decision, actually, it's really easy. And I'm just going to suggest 3 supports that can make following through on that decision much, much easier. So firstly, I'd suggest that you have a regular time that you meditate. So you could just set a time of the day, even to the minute, where you just turn up and meditate. Often the morning's very good because you've not quite sort of started with your day. But whenever it is, you could even just put it in your diary and just make sure you're there. And secondly, somewhere to be, so your space that you meditate in. You want to create a space that you want to be in. You might create a shrine with some images or things that you find genuinely inspire you, and somewhere that you can just keep coming back to at that time. And thirdly, you want to find a way to make it clear to the people in your life what you're doing. So especially if you live with other people, I used to live in a flat share, and I'd sort of hide the fact that I meditated, which meant that I needed to sort of wait for my housemate to go out before I meditated, and I was a bit nervous that they might come back in, and that doesn't really work. So best thing to do is just to tell them that that's what they're doing. They'll probably be quite understanding, hopefully. And then just create a little system whereby they know when you're meditating. So my friend Vidyadhaka made me this little thing that says meditation with a little copyright sign, and I just stick it on my door when I'm going to meditate, and people know not to disturb me. So having a regular time, place, and a way of just communicating that that's what you're doing, and then all you need to do is just turn up, and if you're there and all those things are in place, it would sort of be silly not to then meditate. So yeah, there are some supports for how you can just set up the routine of just doing it every day. But if you just keep doing that and you don't find a way to build up a sort of desire for it, to really be wanting to meditate, it will run dry and you might react back against it. So it's really important to be finding ways to be sort of cultivating that want to meditate, that desire to meditate. So the first thing I'll recommend is that you spend time thinking about meditation outside of meditation. It can be really helpful to go to a meditation class of some sort, maybe once a week or more, just to sort of keep a bit of inspiration kind of coming through. You might read some books about Buddhism or about meditation, just to keep a bit of inspiration alive. And also you might keep a meditation journal. And that's a way of reminding yourself what you can find, how you can find meditation. So you might write down all the details of what it was like when meditation was really good. Or you might write down all the things that you found difficult and how you found a way to overcome them. Or you might think about ways that you might overcome them in future. So that there's a sense of it being a project and a sense of there being a real potential for it to go somewhere. And I'd also really recommend that you write down something even on days when you don't meditate. If there's a day where you forget to meditate, it's not the end of the world. Far better to just start again the next day. And rather than beating yourself up, just write something in your meditation journal and write something about what your mind was like on that day. Because that can be really, really helpful to just notice what your mind is like when you don't meditate. When I was getting started meditating, I'd sort of noticed if I didn't meditate for a week, then my mind would feel like this. And then that sort of time period got shorter and shorter to the point where I'd really notice if I didn't meditate in a day. And that's it. And it didn't feel as good. And that was enough to eventually push me over the edge just to not want to skip a day. So by looking back over a meditation journal, you can both recollect what it's like and when you can really enjoy meditation, work out what the sort of issues are for your meditation and how you can overcome them, and also remember what it's like when you don't meditate. So really good to reflect on your meditation outside of the practice itself. And also it's really important to cultivate enjoyment. Meditation is something that should be enjoyable. If it's going well, you'll at least at some points, experience it as being very, very enjoyable, very pleasurable even. And the one way to keep that alive is to keep a sort of attitude of playfulness and experimentation, so that you're sort of exploring it while you're doing it, rather than just going through the motions. And you might find that if there's one of the stages of the meditation practice that you're really enjoying for some reason that day, you might just keep exploring that or go a bit further with that one rather than move on. You might find a new sort of approach to meditation or an image that comes into your mind that you just want to sort of roll with, and that's really, really good. And if you find that you're really not enjoying meditation, don't sort of push through. So if you've been trying to meditate for like an hour a day and you're really not enjoying it, just cut it back, cut the time right back. You don't need to sort of grit your teeth and go through it, because what you'll do is you'll just create a sense that meditation is something unpleasant, and that is the worst thing you can do. So it would be much better just to meditate every day still, but for a much shorter period, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. But really think about it beforehand, make a decision to do it, and take a playful attitude to it. And if you do that, you're bound to find in time that you'll want to meditate for longer. So there are a few things about how you can both get better at just doing the meditation and also cultivate that desire for it and keep alive the desire to keep going. Which, in order to follow through on a regular practice, especially over months and years, both of those will be really necessary. And there's one more thing that I think is essential if you're going to follow it through in the long term, and that is doing it as a part of a community. Especially as you meditate for longer, you'll really get to know yourself better. You'll really encounter your mind. And there are all sorts of thrills and challenges that come with that. And to do so alone is much, much more difficult. To do so alongside other people who are doing the same thing, you'll be inspired by their successes, perhaps by people much more experienced than you. And you'll also have a sense of people understanding what you find hard, and of a sense of doing something together. So that this effort of trying to build up a daily meditation practice isn't just your own personal problem. It's part of something much bigger. It's part of a much bigger project of transforming mind, your mind and other people's minds and the world around you. It will put what you're trying to do in a much greater and much more satisfying context. So I'd really encourage you to, whether it's the London Buddhist Centre or some other Buddhist group, to find a way of joining in with something bigger than yourself.